Athlete, listen up. Coach Andrew here from PFP. There was a research study done of the top 100 tennis players in the entire world, and what they found was staggering. They found that the top 50 players in the entire world did 5 things differently than players 51 through 100, and it led to them winning way more often, being healthier along the way, reporting that they enjoyed the journey. They didn't burn out. They were more successful. They earned more money. And they only did 5 things very differently. A lot of people were wondering, it must be that they worked harder. They must have had these new skills and drills that no one knew about. They must have put in way more hours on the tennis court. And that couldn't have been further from the truth. In fact, players 51 through 100, they also did those things. They worked hard, they were determined, they were skilled. But the top 50 in the world, it was what they did, get this, in between the points. In between the points that took them to a whole different level. If you are an athlete that is struggling to get to that next level, you've been making progress, but you're like, I just want to break through. I want to become one of the best. Your answer might lie between the points. It was during their 15 seconds of recovery. Just 15 seconds. When a tennis player finishes hitting, they walk back to the baseline, they've got 15 seconds to literally separate themselves from the rest of the pack. So here we go, let's dive in. The first thing they did differently, the first thing was they had pre-planned what their self-talk was going to be as they were walking back to the baseline. Now it varied what their self-talk was, but I promise you this, it wasn't negative. Even if they messed up on a shot, that's when they had this self-talk as they were walking back to the baseline. Think about it for you. In lacrosse, let's say the other team just scored a goal or you just turned the ball over. You've got 5, maybe 10 seconds to quickly turn it around. What are you saying to yourself? What is it that you're saying to yourself? Because that is one of the things that will take you to a whole nother level. You got to have the right self-talk. I've got this. I'm going to turn it around. That play's behind me. I'm moving forward. We talk about the mistake ritual pretty often. That's a way that you can have self-talk, and that's a different video. But you got to have that self-talk. The second thing, and this was super interesting, they had a very intentional walking pace. Get this, if the tennis player, if he was in the top 50, if he was tired and sluggish and just feeling like I'm feeling lethargic, I'm just not in it, my head's not in it this game, how do you think he walked back to the baseline, or she? Really slow? No, I'm tired, so I'm just going to walk tired. No, they walked with speed and force to change the way they felt and to change the way they were thinking. What about if it was like a clutch moment, right? There's only a couple points left in the match and they really are anxious and the crowd is going wild. How do you think they walked back to the baseline? What would you do if you were at your best? That's right, you would walk slowly. Still, eyes up. Slowly, good posture. Maybe not that slow. I just don't want to leave the camera. But they would control their walking pace to match how they wanted to feel, not how they felt. Very important. Write that down. Your walking pace in between plays in games or in between points in games, it should be the way that you want to feel, not how you currently feel. Important differentiation there. The next thing they did differently, they had... It's kind of the same thing with walking pace. They had breath speed. They controlled their breathing. And what I mean by that is if they were tired, again, if they were tired and sluggish and not really feeling it, it sounds a little crazy, but if you want to get yourself pumped up and energized and back in the zone, you gotta speed up your breathing. And I find a lot of athletes, when they get down on themselves, when they start to get a little sad or depressed in games, their breathing rate really does slow down. And we tell athletes, gotta have slow breathing to control yourself, but not in this case. If you're feeling sluggish or down on yourself, jump up and down, breathe fast and strong a few times, and watch how your body responds. That is literally what the best in the world do differently. And yes, this research study was for tennis players, but it transcends all sports. We know this. Every athlete in every sport that uses these things, and I know from experience because I've trained professional athletes, collegiate athletes, and we make sure they use these things. They end up winning more and succeeding more. So controlling breathing speed is number 3. Number 4, the top 50 in the world, when they were walking back to the baseline in between points, they had very specific eye contact. Eye contact. And what I mean by that is not only were their heads up, right, because that's important, right, keep your eyes up, you heard that as an athlete, but no, these guys, top 50, took it to another level. They would look up into the stands, right? Maybe it's somebody that inspired them. Maybe their parents used to sit in a certain spot, or maybe their parents were sitting in a certain spot, girlfriend, boyfriend, and they would look up because it would give them positive focus. Or they would look up, right, into the heavens, look up to God, get some encouragement. They had specific eye contact, and after they did the eye contact, they felt better. They were back in the zone. Their mind was right. Guys, as we're going through these, you might be overwhelmed, but really all you need to do is pick 1 or 2 that you think could make the biggest difference for you and start doing them consistently. Because number five, we all know this as athletes, but if I were to ask you, how you doing here? Or better yet, if I were to ask your coach or your parents or the fans, how are you doing here? What would they say? They would say, hey, well, Sarah, John, they're good when things are good, but when things aren't good, they're not so good. That's not what you want to be said about you. And the top 50 in the world, their posture was consistent whether they played poorly or not. Whether they played poorly or whether they were crushing it, their posture always remained tall, because where your posture is, so goes your performance. If your head is down, you're going downhill, baby. You're going downhill fast. But no, the top 50 in the world, they controlled their self-talk. They knew what they were going to say to themselves. What are you going to say to yourself in between points? You got to know it. You got to write it down right now. Number 2, they walked slow to slow their body down, to slow their mind down if they needed to calm down. They walked fast if they needed to get pumped up and ready. Same with breath, their eye contact. They looked where they were going to get encouragement. Up, out, but never down. Never down. And then lastly, get the posture right. So here are 5 tips, 5 crucial tips that the best in the world do differently. 5 habits of the best athletes in the world. Which one can you take today so you can take your game to another level? Thanks for watching, guys. Jump into another video. We'll see you soon. Peace.